I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
For nearly 65 years, the Porsche Club of America has offered an unparalleled experience to Porsche owners across North America. Now, PCA is proud to offer a new experience to the 130,000 members of the largest single-marque car club in the world. Introducing the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series in partnership with iRacing and Podium eSports. 60 PCA members will compete for victory with the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car on 8 iconic North American circuits. All broadcast live on the iRacing eSports Network. Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, live tonight from Sebring International Raceway in Sebring, Florida. I am James Pike alongside Cisco Scaramouche, our producer, and our analyst of the evening, Mr. David Shieldhouse. And David, I'll come to you first because the masses have been waiting and waiting for Podium eSports to go road racing, and it took us a little bit longer, but we do deliver. We are here with the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series.
Thanks, James. Good evening, race fans. Good to be here with you on a Friday. And yes, finally going road course racing. What better way to do it than the jewel here in Florida, Sebring, with the Porsche Club of America. Very exciting to bring these two great entities together. One of the most prestigious logos that you can slap on a car is the Porsche brand. And you take them out here and go racing with them. You unite all these drivers, these Porsche owners, club members. It's a very exciting thing here. We organize this series, let them go racing against some of the best in the business to do it. And in the end, we'll crown a champion, but it all starts here tonight at Sebring.
All starts here at Sebring, where we have many Porsche Club of America members here taking part in this. Everybody that's going to be racing tonight is a Porsche Club of America, and they all eventually report to our very special guests of the evening. We have with us this evening the Executive Director of the Porsche Club of America, Mr. Vu Nguyen. And Vu, welcome to the broadcast, and welcome to Sim Racing and iRacing, and welcome to the PCA.
Thank you very much. This is very exciting for all of us.
Now, I don't think we need to delve into the Porsche aspect of this all that much. For a brand that has no substitute, I don't think we need to explain much. But for those who are watching the broadcast who might be coming from more of a sim racing background and don't know a lot about the PCA, talk a little bit about what the PCA does.
Well, we live, breathe everything Porsche, and we're 135,000 members strong. And everything and anything that you want to do with a Porsche, we're the forum to do so. And racing is definitely one of them.
You can't have Porsches without the racing, right? And I know
That's
there's a pretty big club racing contingent in the PCA as well, yes?
Absolutely. We have over 30 races a year, and I believe over about 2,200 drivers, and world-class, the largest single-mark racing group in the world.
And this is racing, obviously, but it's a bit of a new venture for the PCA. There's never been a PCA sim racing series before. So what interested the PCA about this whole proposition, and what sort of drew your attention and made you guys decide to come in and hop on board with this?
Well, we've been interested in it a while, and I'll be honest, there's a lot going on in PCA. We have, the club has over 3,500 events a year, 12 national events, and as I mentioned earlier, club racing, and we've always wanted to do so, but haven't been able to find the time to, implement it properly. But teaming up with you guys, we looked at the possibility of doing it, and just, we were able to bring it to the forefront for 2019, and we're just really excited, and it's just one more member benefit for our members.
And what other benefits can members of the PCA get when they sign up for membership?
Well, like I said, we do everything with our Porsches, and it could be something as casual as just going for a drive or go to technical sessions, do driver's education events. You can autocross, you can rally, and of course, the dream for most of us is to learn how to drive well enough that you can go club racing.
And if folks watching our broadcast tonight might be interested in finding out more information about the Porsche Club of America, where can they find you on the web? Where can they find you on social media? And how can they get in touch with the PCA?
Well, hopefully it's not hard for them, because we're pretty much everywhere, but simply pca.org takes you directly to our website, and within a few minutes, if they are an owner of a Porsche, they can sign up and become an official member.
Well, Vu, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us this evening. And I figure we're going to have a pretty entertaining race at Sebring, so we'll look forward to seeing you here watching the broadcast. And who knows, maybe you'll pop up and chat and say hi to a lot of the PCA members who I can already tell are watching the broadcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
So there is the Executive Director of the Porsche Club of America, Vu Nguyen. And I think now we can turn our attention towards this race in particular and to the PCA SRS David Schildhouse. Now, we'll run through the format for this really quickly for this 8-race season, which is going to take place all throughout the spring. We have 60 PCA members that are registered here in the PCA SRS. They will run in an initial sort of qualify and practice and get themselves set up. They'll post times each week. And from that qualifying session, the 30 fastest drivers will go into the A server that will be broadcast. Everybody else will go into the B server. And we'll do that for 8 weeks, tally up the points, and fastest driver across those 8 weeks will be the inaugural PCA SRS champion.
You make it sound so easy. All they have to do is just go out and, make left and right-hand turns in their sim Porsche, and they're going to get it done. But it's not that simple. We talk about the tracks that they're going to be going to, James, starting here tonight at Sebring, one of the roughest surfaces that you can find. This track has a lot of history to it as well. Some of the portions of this track date back to World War II runways. So a lot of history here at Sebring.
A lot of history and a lot of interesting kinks, bumps, places that you'll need to be aware of. And if there's one man who knows this place very well, it's Jack Stiles, one of the commentators for the Porsche qualifying series here on iRacing, who's very conveniently provided us with a chance to ride along with him. So we'll let Jack take you around Sebring International Raceway and show you how to get around this place as fast as possible.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Sebring International Raceway on board with Jack Stiles in a Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, heading down the back straight towards Sunset Bend, the final corner on the course. Very gentle on the brakes, running very wide, and then you want to be looking for the inside through this final part. Watch the bumps through the middle of the corner. Don't want to have too much power. Modulate the throttle to make sure you don't run too wide out of the corner. You want a good run, though, off of the exit, down the start-finish straight, because this can set you up well for turn number 1. Under the Chevrolet bridge. On the brakes once again, a little bit of trail braking going to be needed in this car. Looking for that cone on the inside, that's your acceleration marker. Back to full throttle, hugging the right hand side of the track, back on the brakes again at the 3 cones. Just hugging that left. A little bit of contact with the curb can be had, however you don't want too much because you will damage your car. Still hugging that left hand side, back on throttle as quickly as possible. Want to keep as far right as possible underneath this bridge here. Be very careful not to make any contact with that concrete wall because that will again bite very hard. Just after the bridge, back on the brakes again for the hairpin. However, in hot conditions like today, you will want second gear. Back on the throttle, you want to be really quick there because your better exit can be the difference between having a good run or a bad run into this next corner and potentially losing a position or 2. Back on the brakes just before those first set of cones. Down into second gear. This is where you have to be careful because the bumps are very clear off of that corner. Hugging the inside, modulating the throttle to make sure you don't lose the rear end. Hugging the left-hand side, back onto the brakes, and then just run it out as wide as possible. You can run it as wide as you'd like and wider you think out of that corner. Flat once again, through the left-hand kink. Really hug the curb. And again through the next one, back on the brakes. You want to be down to third gear for the right-hander. It's longer than you'd think it is, so you don't want to be back on the throttle too early. And down to third once again. Again, this is much longer than you think. You can use that curb on the exit. Down at the back straight once again towards Sunset Bend. And this is where you want to be starting to look for your braking points. Watch out for attack from behind. People like coming up the inside into the first section of Sunset Bend because it pushes you a little bit off onto the brakes, hug the inside wall, and then down to third. Really try and hit that bump just there. Back on the power and out using all the possible track cover, any moves across the line. And that is a lap of Sebring International Raceway.
And that is a lap around Sebring International Raceway. David Schoenhaus, a big thank you to Jack for helping us introduce this track to our audience tonight. And when I think of this place personally, I think of both the trail braking that you do on the old runway, because there is so much time that you can gain if you hit it right, especially through Sunset Bend and Turn 1. And then I also think of some of the trickier corners here. I think of the hairpin in 7, and then Turn 10, the tower turn, the run into 15 and 16 at Le Mans, all sort of varying degrees of difficulty there, but definitely a technical challenge in places nonetheless.
That's what makes Sebring so great, James, is the variety that you get with each corner. So many different ways to attack this track, and you have high-speed corners, low-speed technical turns. For me, my favorite parts of this track are where it ends and where it begins. Turn 17, Sunset Bend, and the first corner, the run down the straightaway into Turn 1. 2 very exciting places to see, connecting both the end of one lap and the beginning of another.
And we have completed the warm-up session, and we're ready to go with the grid. So we'll get you lined up for the inaugural Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series race. This will be your starting grid. Billy Smith, out of the Maverick region, posted the top time in qualifying with a 2:06.248 to take pole position. Jason Lisner will start on his outside in P2. P3 is where you'll find the 12 of James Huth. Leif Peterson will start in the 4th position. 5th will be James Patak of the 72. Michael Polasek in the 45 starts 6th. 7th will be the 05 Liam Radzitis. Christopher Pies will start in the 8th spot. 9th with the 44 of Alberto Fonseca, and Matthew Kikes out of the Carolinas region will start 10th.
Inside row number 6 will be William Yu. To his outside will be Robert Wilson in 12th. Kyle Kamer will be in the 13th spot. Michael Levisk in 14th. Kenny Brown 15th. Joshua Vieira in 16th. Terrence Waugh in 17th. John Waltman 18th. Richard Minkler in 19th. And Stephen Cugliari rounds out the top 20.
21st will be Charlie Yao. Sahib Khalsa starts in the 22nd spot. 23rd will be Eric McHugh. Jason Morski will start from 24th. 25th will be the 000 of Eric Peterson. Richard Franco will start 26th. Jeremy Mazzariello will start from 27th. 28th will be the 16 of Jeffrey Smith. Pucky Laux will start from 29th. And 30th will be David Stewart.
I like that name, Pucky Laux. If there's a name to be cheering for in racing, that's going to be it right there. The final 2 drivers in the starting grid here tonight. Juha Maki in 31st, and James Su will be in 32nd to round out this field. James Pike, as they do the warm-up lap. 32 drivers strong, ready to go for 45 minutes here at Sebring.
As they get set to tackle this track here, and we'll bring up the track facts for you momentarily. Talk about how you get around this 3.7 mile circuit here, as everything seems to be very hunky-dory amongst the starting grid. No issues here as they work through the hairpin and come up through the Fangio section for the first time on their lap before they get set to roll here at Sebring. But 3.7 miles, 5.955 kilometers here, 17 turns around the Sebring International Raceway. We'll be racing with default iRacing weather here, so if you want specifics in particular, in-sim time is May 15th, 2019. It is currently 6 minutes before 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Weather is partly cloudy, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temps are at almost 109, 110 degrees. Humidity 55%. And winds to the north at 2 miles an hour. We will have dynamic clouds here, so you should see some shade coming over this circuit in parts as we see one of the newest effects in iRacing, the transition from day to night, the cloud cover coming to effect. It will cool this circuit down at points and may make for a few faster laps when the clouds come over this place. But for the most part, you should expect bright Floridian May sunshine and a hot track, a slick track, and one that might throw off some of these drivers if they overshoot the corners, which we may well see in more than a few places tonight.
Yeah, the clouds can play a little bit of games with these drivers, make them slow down a little bit. We saw times a little bit slower than we expected because of the cloud cover, not necessarily all over the track, but that's just the effect that it can have. So for the driver, as you get set to approach this race, all the variables that do play in, you have to keep those in mind. And for these drivers, they have to race the track and be nice to each other next time they go down this straightaway. It's going to be at full speed as they get set for the final corner to complete that first lap into Sunset Bend. That's going to be one to watch. But James Pike, I'm so glad to be up here in the booth with you to kick off this series. It's always special to start a season.
One more bit that might be important as I think about it. We'll go for 45 minutes of racing here. So just a very simple clock here and simple caution rules as well. We won't bring out the full course unless we absolutely need it. But in any case, we are very glad to have all the Porsche Club of America members along for the ride here. A big hello to all of you watching the broadcast and all of you sim racing fans as well, as the pace car will get set to pull onto pit road, and it will be the man in the number 70 machine. It will be Billy Smith who leads the field of green, and we are underway with the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series here at Sebring. And Smith will have that preferred line as they go into turn one of the first trail-breaking corners, get down into fourth gear. Here's they all fan out. Some cars in trouble a little bit further back in the field. A lot of cars sort of sliding and making sure they jump around their way. I see a few pulled together. Kyle Kamer and Eric Peterson, I think, got caught up in it, as did James Su. Otherwise, everybody all in pretty good shape here as they come through the first very tight sort of technical combo corners here, the 3, 4, 5, 6 section right before Big Bend.
Kenny Brown did go around in turn 3 as well in the number 1. He's back underway under Powers. It was a fairly clean start for the most part. Billy Smith, nice clean getaway out in front of Jason Lisner there. Look at that fight for third. Everyone piling down into the hairpin. Got to be on the brakes early there. You don't want to overshoot or use up the competition as your brakes. Seemingly everybody clear and through.
The hairpin is a tricky corner, and I think just with the way this 911 sets up, the braking zones are a bit longer than you would sort of expect on some of the cars. And compared to a lot of the other cars in iRacing, you definitely have to account for that and the lack of an ABS system here. So you have to be very careful about how you get on the brakes, how you apply the threshold, and then how you blip the throttle on corner entry. And I will admit, having run a few laps here myself this week, that the drivers that you see in this top 5 and 6 all ran practice sessions, all tried to get some laps in here earlier in the week to get a feel for the Sebring International Raceway, and all quite simply have more skill than I think I ever could in a Porsche 911. But then again, I would like to think that's what you would expect out of Porsche Club of America members. You should see Billy Smith jumping way out to the wine, but there right before you hit Le Mans, that corner there, to get a really good run on the Ullman straight, which they come down for the first time, and that's not a uncommon thing to see. Most drivers will jump way outside of the March racing surface and go way wide there because you have the room, because this is, after all, an old airplane run.
Plenty of room to do that and use all the space that you can as long as it's legal. Nothing wrong with that as the field goes through Sunset Bend now. And it's easy to go side by side through there, or at least think that you can, until you get them that high side, and all of a sudden you got no grip and that wall's coming up on you in a hurry. But again, everybody through and clear, get one lap up on the board. There were a couple other cars that spun towards the back, Joshua Vieira being one of them, along with Steven Cugliari was the second car who went around after they got through the hairpin. So just sort of keeping an eye on guys that are struggling, trying to keep a handle on their cars. Another one there, Charlie Yao, really missed turn 1 as well, but he's still doing okay. So, two more cars get together there again in turn 3. That's Sahib, I believe, and another driver involved with Sahib is going to be David Stewart. So once again, turn 3, James, these guys still going at it all the way through this complex.
So a lot of incidents there. Also a little bit further up the field, I saw Leif Peterson getting the gas a little bit too early, coming out of turn 3 to hit the very tight, almost chicane-like complex. Turns 3, 4, 5, and 6 as he goes for a slide in the hairpin there and just saves it. But again, it speaks to the difficulty of getting these cars blown up. If you can handle the 911 GT3, it has some speed, but you have to know how to threshold brake and how to get on the throttle appropriately here, because there's a lot of power in the rear wheels of these 911s.
It's definitely a finely tuned dance to tame this beast, this Porsche 911 GT3. Not an easy thing. You're not just mashing the throttle and steering. That's just not the way to do it. You got to be a lot smoother as we look at this battle between Robert Wilson and Christopher Pais here through what is turns 11, 12, and 13. I'm sorry. Yeah, turn 12, 11, 13 as they get set up for the run down Ullman Straight off of 16. My apologies. So these guys battling, doing a nice job here as everyone, I think at this point, James has started to settle in. They get away from the big pack and try and find the battles that they're going to run in for the time being. Some early incidents, some guys a little too aggressive, I think, as Richard Minkler comes through into the 11th spot, gets that in the number 76 as they go through Sunset. So now we settle in, everyone finds their pace, just puts down laps to get to the end of this thing.
Really good battle there between Pines and Wilson, a battle between the Potomac and the Lone Star regions of the PCA, and it is the Potomac that I think is going to cede the spot to the Lone Star man, Pines, of Houston, Texas. Will get the run through turn 1, got a really good run through Sunset Bend to get alongside Wilson, and then was able to finish off the move down this very long front straight at Sebring. So Pines will take that spot and move up to 6th.
Leads them through 3, 4, 5, and 6. Big Bend leading down to the hairpin. They find themselves about 8 seconds back from leader Billy Smith right now, who enjoys about a 7/10 of a second lead over Jason Lisner. So no change up to the front of the field. Huth, Patak, Polasek still round out the top 5. As we look at this three-way battle, here comes Matthew Kikas as well in the 8th position to make that a 3-car fight for those positions. Nice and clean. Everybody seemingly following their lines. Get down to these braking zones. It's so inviting, James, to really throw it in deep. You think you got a lot of stopping power, but all of a sudden you're carrying too much speed and you're sliding around. This guy's doing a nice job holding on, but here comes Kikas in that number 15 looking for the 7th spot.
So Kikas trying to get around Wilson. It looks like the Potomac and the Carolina regions going at it here. Kikas out of Raleigh, North Carolina, trying to run down and get past Wilson. And you see the very big Carolina Club logo on his rear wing there. So If you didn't know where he was from, pretty easy to spot it now. Also of note here as we watch Pies and Wilson and Kikas go at it. A little bit further up the field, definitely keep an eye on James Patak and Michael Palasic. A very, very fun combo that. You've got Patak, who runs in the Peach State region of the PCA, and we know they have a very, very strong and long-running sim racing series, so I figure a lot of Peach State folks are watching this broadcast ready to see their drivers compete on the big stage. Patak currently leads the Peach State drivers in this race, and then Michael Balasic, 19 years old, out of the northern New Jersey region, just outside the Newark, New Jersey area, running that plaid car that scheme that just took all the rage and grabbed all the attention at the 24 Hours of Daytona, and currently has a pretty strong run. Or actually, I take that back. That's Patak in the plaid car, and then Palasic just behind him, but still top 5 runner here for the number 45.
I really like that scheme for Patak. That plaid really speaks to me as somebody who likes to wear plaid from time to time. That is a sharp-looking race car out of the Peach State region, and one to be proud of for sure. Currently in that 4th position, as Palasic will try and grab a sniff of that draft as they run down towards the hairpin here. Looking at these lap times as everybody goes by, everyone in the 2-minute, 6-second bracket inside of the top 5, everyone at least a second slower from 6th on back. So all these guys in that same sort of grouping, 206.3 for Billy Smith, finds himself to be about 2 to 3 tenths of a second faster than everybody else, as he now has grown his lead up over a second.
I've seen laps in practice here go down into the 205.2s, and I think just with the extra heat here in this track, I'm not surprised to see them slip up into the 206s, but still, if you can get down 206 and get around there consistently, you're going to have a chance to do something special in this race. And no surprise that Billy Smith in the green flag conditions has cleared 206 and cleared the 206.5 mark very easily.
He's been running that pretty much all day, all practice. No problem for him to do that, and seems to be the man in control right now. He can just run the pace that he wants to. He's grown that lead, like I said, to about a second over Lisner, and that's really all you need to do is just manage that gap. You don't have to do anything extra, anything special. If you got that much pace, keep a little bit in reserve for a little bit later into the run as they once again go down the Ullman straight into Sunset Bend. Top 5 sort of equidistant from one another. In total, it's almost 4 seconds back to 5th place, but that fight for 4th is starting to heat up. Here comes Palasic.
Palasic making good moves. I've also got my eye here on this little group from about 7th, 8th, 9th. It's not the first time we've called Robert Wilson's name, but he's got 2 drivers from out on the West Coast. He's got William Yu of the Los Angeles region, and then Alberto Fonseca from the Pacific Northwest region right behind him, and those two are pretty much nose to tail. Here comes Fonseca trying to look for a way around Yu, going into that very long, winding first turn where you have to ride the brakes, hit the threshold, and get down to 4th gear, sometimes 3rd, before coming out, handling the bumps, and getting your way very nicely into the technical 3, 4, 5, 6 complex they enter right now.
Turn 3 been a trouble spot for a lot of drivers here tonight already, but this group is through it nice and clean. William Yu gets a good run off of the 6th corner through Big Bend right now. Again on the run down to the hairpin, leading from Alberto Fonseca there in 10th. Not quite close enough to strike at this distance. You need to be a little bit closer if you're going to peek the nose down to the inside and attempt an overtake. So nice, orderly, single file line down through the hairpins. They set up for Fangio.
It's a very interesting balance that you have to hit in the hairpins, I think, and especially at turn 7 here at Sebring, where you can watch the driver in front of you and gauge how you break into the corner based off of the line that the driver ahead of you is running and where they begin to get on the brakes. And if you do it right, you can definitely gain a lot of time, but if you screw it up and you lock the brakes up, then you're going off and you're going wide and you're killing yourself. And now, thankfully, at Sebring, there's some runoff over by turn 7. So it's not the end of the world as it would be, say, at a tighter track. I think of Lime Rock in particular here that we'll go to a little bit later in this series, where if you really screw it up at the top of the hill, you're in big trouble. But it's definitely not something that you want to do, and it's not a position that you want to put yourself in if you can avoid it.
No, certainly not. There's a lot of room to recover from mistakes here at Sebring, which is nice. A lot of grassy runoff areas and sand traps as well that you can sort of right the ship if you've gone wrong. And I like what you talked about there, using the car ahead of you as a marker for your braking spot, particularly down into these tighter technical corners, the low speed ones like the hairpin. But the only problem with that is if They make a mistake. You're following them as one car goes right up into the wall. That's, I believe, the 171. Robert Wilson through Sunset Bend completely misses it. He's going to take a hard right-hand turn, bring that car down pit road as Fonseca and you battle down the front straightaway.
So Fonseca and you will continue to go at it. These two from the West Coast have been tied together for the last 2 laps. And Wilson, I presume, I didn't get the chance to see it myself, but if you run into trouble over on the Sunset Bend, you probably just lock the brakes up too much more than anything else. That's one where you definitely have to be on your P's and Q's when it comes to trail braking. But it's very easy to lock them up, and that more often than not is driver error. You want to try and carry some speed, but for the most part, you definitely want to make sure that you get down to the bottom there. You think you're going really, really slow if you hit the apex, right? But in reality, if you go way wide there, because there's so much space in that corner in particular, and to some degree, I think the same also applies in turn one, you can lose anywhere from a quarter to a half a second just in that spot alone if you mess it up.
Sunset Bend, one of the most tricky, deceiving corners in this entire 17-corner track, because of the fact that it invites you in with this long, wide, sweeping entrance, and it gives you this viewpoint of a lot of room to run, but you carry so much speed in there, all of a sudden you're running out of room and you cannot recover. As we saw for Wilson, Robert Wilson there, up into the wall, and that'll bring the Porsche down pit road, and he's got a lot of repairs to effect to the left side of that car. Very beat up, and that's the pitfall of turn 17. Looks like it's an area you can carry a lot of speed, but you really got to get her woed down and respect that corner. Otherwise, you're going to be up in the wall like Robert Wilson was.
So while Wilson gets his car repaired, we'll take a look a little bit further back in the field to the 05 of Liam Radzitsis, representing the Upper Canada region of the PCA out of Aurora, Ontario. Upper Canada represents most of the province of Ontario and the Greater Toronto area. So those watching from north of the border here from our production facilities in the United States certainly will be keeping an eye on one of their drivers here. And he's got a very, very impressive German flag here, and maybe a battle shaping up as he gets around Jason Morski there in the 14. So you can move Radzitsis up another position in the standings.
Up to the 17th position in that, call it drab green livery with the German flag on the hood. And indeed, he goes around the 14 of Morski. Now they head down into the Sunset Bend, see how they get through this corner. No problem. Nice tidy line for both of those drivers. You see Morski a little bit tighter against the inside wall. Doesn't quite carry the speed that Radzitsis does when he ran that sort of middle groove, but points it to the bottom. He gets a good run off down this long front straightaway. If you can get a great exit off of 17, that can really set up a flyer for you here. But look at that, a little bit of a mistake, a little lockup for Radzitsis into one. That'll give a little bit of time back to Morski.
So Morski will get a little bit back, but you can also gas it up very quickly out of turn one and save yourself a little bit of lap time as well. Get some of that time back if you hit the exit right. You have a little bit of room to go wide, and if the car gets tight on you, then you can certainly fix it up. As you see Morski go off into the dirt there coming out of turn 5, that last little bit of the technical section there before they hit Big Bend, and then they come down into turn 7, the hairpin, the tightest corner on this course here at Sebring International Raceway, down almost into first gear if you need to shift into first speed, but most of the fast drivers will get down to second, but either still to go from anywhere from 5th or 6th gear to second, it's a very, very big swing when you'll have to be on your behavior for that you get down on the brakes into turn 7.
Yeah, hard braking zone right there. A good passing opportunity if you can make it work. But again, we've seen you just have to be a little bit closer. As we look again up front here, Billy Smith continues to lead as he works down the Ullman Straight towards Sunset Bend. Jason Lisner still in the second spot, but he has not fallen off. He's sort of held that gap around the 0.7 of a second mark, and even a little bit better there. Looking at the lap times, he was faster last time by than Billy Smith. We'll take a look as they cross the stripe again to complete their 7th lap. Smith a little bit faster that last time by. So kind of trading barbs here, these two drivers, but they've pulled away by about 2 seconds over third place, James Huth. So these two drivers clearly in a league of their own right now. The question is, James, how much is Billy Smith holding back, if anything, or has Jason Lisner just found that much more pace?
Smith was insanely quick in practice, the fastest man in practice last night out of the Maverick region, representing the Dallas and Fort Worth Metroplex in the PCA. Behind him, Jason Lisner hails from the First Settlers region. So if you want to learn your PCA geography, we're here for that too. And First Settlers region represents most of the area around the coastal plains, Virginia Beach, Williamsburg, all the way up to the state capital in Richmond. So anybody who wants to keep track of what's taking place there, probably cheering on the number 92 machine, that orange and blue 911, as he tries to hunt down the leader. Right behind him should be the 12 of James Huth, and Huth hails from the Hudson-Champlain region of the PCA. So if you like New York and you like the Hudson River Valley, right around the Albany area and down the way as you get towards Westchester in the greater New York area, you could probably find James Huth putting in more practice laps here and finding every ounce of speed out of this 911 that he can in sim, and he's doing a pretty good job of it as it stands, currently holding the P3 spot.
Indeed, and he's got the lapped vehicle of Kyle Kammer there in front of him in the 888. Kammer in the 28th position, just trying to get through this thing. He's 2 laps down right now. He will yield, give way to Huth, so Huth on through as they get onto Ullman Straight. And again, look at Lisner here, just trying to determine where he's faster than Billy Smith around the racetrack. And again, it seems to just be very, very even between the two of them. I think Lisner carries better speed into the Sunset Bend, but Smith back on the gas sooner and gets down this front straightaway pretty well. Just very, very even between these two drivers. Nice job up front. I think this could be a fight that spans the entirety of the 45 minutes, James, and could come down to that last lap, see whoever can drive it in harder. But Lisner giving a great run, great account for himself in that number 92.
I mean, it's really, really tight between both of them. If you look at the lap times, it's almost even. Although Lisner just ran his fastest lap of the race that last time by at a 2:06.338 to Billy Smith's 2:06.407. So throughout the whole of the lap, he gained a 10th on Billy Smith, which seems pretty impressive. But these two are just about identical in lap times, and pretty much unmatched for pace across this field here in the inaugural race of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. It will, I think, be a mistake of some form that allows one or the other to either close or get away.
Most likely correct. And listen, I think there's ice in the veins of one Billy Smith. I think he's a hard customer to rattle as well. And for Lisner, he's going to have to do something dramatic to try and force an error out of Smith. So where he stands right now, that 7 to 8 tenths of a second back's not going to do it. He's going to have to get closer. He's going to have to fill up that rear view mirror and really distract Billy Smith, but I'm just not sure that's capable. He's just, well, it's only the first race, and we don't want to make up nicknames, but we can tentatively call him Iceman Jr. for now, as he continues to pace his field like he has since the drop of the first green flag.
Billy Smith with a lot of speed here, but I think the big thing to note here is that, and especially here at Sebring, I've noticed this in the official races, because it just so happens that the official Porsche Pro Qualifying Series is at Sebring this week with an iRacing, for those of you familiar with the sim. So having had the chance to run a few of those myself, it's not necessarily about the outright speed here. If you're running behind someone, in some cases, just your presence, being able to consistently stay within someone's rear view mirror will every once in a while throw them up, as I think Billy Smith may have done there. It looked like he got into Sunset Bend with a little bit wider arc than he would have liked. So if you could just stay there, and if you make use of the time, and remember, we still have about 25 minutes and change left in this inaugural race, so plenty of time for Lisner to sit around and plenty of time for these two to complete laps, and for Billy Smith to make a mistake, or Lisner to make one there as he goes a little bit wide coming out of turn one.
Indeed, we've been riding along with Richard Minkler in the number 76 out of the Rocky Mountain region, a little bit closer to my locale, still looking for my Arizona guys, but Richard Winkler currently in the 11th position, trying to chase down William Yu, my apologies, in the 07, currently holding down the 10th spot as they go through turns 1 and 2 on the run up to 3. Good little battle between these guys. Again, very similar lap times, James, between these guys, and that's the point that we get to, is we get to these pockets, these little clusters of racing as guys find those who have similar pace around, and they get to run there, and that's kind of the fun of it, is maybe you're going in, you're not going to have the pace of the guys in the top 5, but you'll latch onto somebody in this field who is just as fast as you are, and you can have yourself a pretty good little fight. As I look just a little bit further ahead at Fonseca and Peterson going at it out of the hairpin, so a good spirited battle there between those two drivers as well.
Really fun stuff there. Richard Minkler out of the Rocky Mountain region. So I believe my memory serves me correctly. That's Zone 9 of the PCA, and that's one of the trickiest regions as far as geography goes. There, you get northern Colorado, southeastern Wyoming, a piece of Nebraska, and then a few bits of western Kansas within the region there. So everybody in the Rocky Mountain region probably cheering on that 76 machine. Currently sitting right outside of the top 10. William Yu has got the last spot in the top 10 for the Los Angeles region of the PCA, and see if Minkler can run him down in a bit.
Doing a nice job, Minkler and you, for a little bit of a fight there. And again, keep an eye on Peterson and Fonseca. It really tightens up here as they get prepared through Le Mans to come onto the Ulman Straight. Good launch off the corner for Peterson. If he can get a toe down the straightaway, might be able to sneak a cheeky peek down to the inside in Sunset Bend. Again, not sure he's close enough, but he's closing in here. Yes, indeed, he will duck down to the inside, show the nose. He will try and get this pass done. Fonseca fights back hard on the outside, side by side through Sunset Bend here at Sebring, but look at the run off. Leif Peterson up to 8th. Great pass.
Really good stuff there from Leif Peterson to get to the inside, get on the brakes, get it wound up, ride them, trail breaking up, and take the spot away from Fonseca. So move the PNW region driver back one spot, move Leif Peterson up one spot to 8th. And oh, by the way, we've seen that the Maverick region has some speed, and you want to take a guess where Leif Peterson hails from? How about the Maverick region itself? So they're putting in a very good showing between Leif Peterson and Jason Morski. All of those drivers all running really well.
I guess befitting of the name Maverick, then they got a lot of pace and working their way up through the field now. So nice job for those drivers to work up through this field. Again, about 22 minutes and change left in this race. So, now you made a little bit of a charge for Peterson, at least looking out the front. He's got about 4.5 seconds to the next car in front of him. That's Matthew Kikas. Not sure how many laps it's going to take for him, but if he can run the pace that he's been running before he got to Fonseca, I think he'll be able to track down Kikas and Pais as well, as those two drivers run nose to tail for 6th and 7th.
We'll keep our eye on Christopher Pais and Matthew Kikas, but while we have a moment, we'll remind you that the Porsche Club of America is the largest single marked car club in the world, with over 135,000 members across North America. There are also 145 PCA regions throughout the United States and Canada, so that you can get involved locally with fellow Porsche owners. If you're not already a member of the PCA, membership is only $46 a year, and it includes a subscription to the award-winning PCA magazine Porsche Panorama and access to the members-only section of the PCA.org website. To join the Porsche Club of America, you can visit pca.org/join-Porsche-Club-America. As there is absolutely nothing given over this last lap between Christopher Pais and Matthew Kikas here. Lone Star and Carolina regions going at it for the 6th position as they work their way past the front stretch here in Sebring and get set to get down into turn 1.
A lot of pressure being applied by Matthew Kikas. They were trying to get that 6th position away. A little bit tighter line through 1. Gives them a good run here into 2 and down into 3. Pais have to be a little bit defensive here as they work through this set of corners, but expertly driven through 3, 4, and now setting up for 5. Again, the left-hander leading to Big Bend at 6 for the run down to the hairpin. Doing a nice job. These two drivers, Pais will hold on to it for the time being.
We'll keep an eye on that and also watch this very entertaining battle here. It's a three-way battle coming down the front stretch between Jeffrey Smith, Eric McHugh in the 11, and Jason Morski in the 14 machine. Those three all running nose to tail here and making a pretty good battle of as they come through turn 1. I thought that Smith was going to be able to drive away, but he overshot the corner, so should have a good battle here going into turn 3.
An absolute brawl between these three drivers. I look at that number 11, Eric McHugh. A lot of damage to that car, particularly on the rear. He's been getting a few bumper taps from his fellow competitors. Nonetheless, that 11 still running strong. He's back in that 19th spot as Smith and Morski continue to fight on the run down to the hairpin. Pretty wild turn 1 that last time by, but they get it all sorted out for the time being. Again, these guys, similar pace, running really, really close here through the hairpin. You see how much McHugh closed up in the braking zone. Might have damage on the back, but that car's still pretty quick.
Still a pretty quick machine, I think, does Eric McHugh have underneath him. And the question will be, can Jason Morski, who looks like he's been a little bit more composed here, although he got in pretty deep into the corner there. I believe that's what, turn 10, if my memory serves me correctly, as they work their way up to tower. One of the trickiest corners here, because you have to find a way to straighten yourself out immediately to hit the braking section correctly. Otherwise, you're off into the dirt here, off to the driver's left-hand side. But they clean it up nicely, and so they'll make the run through Bishop and down to turn 15.
If I had $1 for every time I made a mistake down at that end of the racetrack, I could probably send in $46 to the PCA to get my membership. I'd have to have a Porsche as well. But nonetheless, I've made that mistake many, many times. Easy to do here, but for the time being, they get through nice and clean onto the Ullman straight one more time. As Smith continues to lead Morski, McHugh drops back just a little bit. Perhaps that damage hurting him down the straightaway. Seems to have okay corner speed, but with that amount of damage, I'm not surprised to see him lose a little bit of top-end speed.
So we'll keep an eye on the battle between Morski and Smith. That's the one we're keeping all eyes on here. This is about 17th and 18th on track as they come across the start-finish line. And now, as we've already crossed the halfway point here, as they come across the line, we'll take a moment to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break, which is brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with racing from the Australian Supercars, the Cars Tour, who run on the Podium eSports Network over on Twitch on Wednesday nights, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Billy Smith is your leader in this race as they come down right around the 20-minute to go mark. Jason Lisner currently holds the second spot. Third belongs to James Hoop in the 12 machine. Michael Polasic, the 19-year-old from the northern New Jersey region, currently is in fourth. James Patak holds the fifth spot. Christopher Pies currently sits in the sixth position. Seventh belongs to the 15 of Matthew Kiggis. Leif Peterson in the 913 is at the eighth spot. Ninth is where you'll find the 44 of Alberto Fonseca, and William Yu out of the Los Angeles region currently holds the final spot in the top 10.
Richard Minkler currently in 11th. Michael Levesque in 17th. Jason Morski in 18th. Eric McHugh 19th. And David Stewart rounds out the top 20.
21st is Sahib Kausa. 22nd is Bucky Loups. Kenny Brown in the one machine currently rides in 23rd. 24th is where you'll find Richard Franco. Juha Matanmaki is the last car on the lead lap in 25th. First car one lap down is Terrence Waugh in 26th. Eric Peterson currently runs in 27th. 28th is the 888 of Kyle Kamer. Robert Wilson is 29th. And Charlie Yao currently sits in 30th. And then James Hsu and Josh Fier are 31st and 32nd here in this inaugural race for the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. And that concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 80,000 drivers on the service and over 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is the original eSports racing game. For more information, you can visit iRacing.com today, and I will also add in the bit because I have a feeling there'll be a few people whose ears may perk up at the sound of this. Soon that is going to go to 81 laser scan tracks and cars because the Circuit de Catalunya just outside of Barcelona is coming to the service. iRacing staff confirming earlier this year, right around Valentine's Day, that they are working on scanning the track and getting that into the sim. So I would think sometime later in 2019 we will see the home of the Spanish Grand Prix here on the world's original racing esport game.
Pretty exciting. I can jump in my F1 car and go simulate preseason testing as well in preparation for next year's Formula One season. So cool to see Catalunya come to the service. That's a track that's near and dear to my heart, again, for that Spanish Grand Prix and F1 preseason testing. It's like speed weeks for NASCAR and any other preseason tune-up that you get in the racing series. Very cool to see that come into the service.
Very, very cool to see that coming to the service. And while we run around here, we'll also make sure that you all know about the fact that the Porsche Club of America Club Racing Division has more than 2,000 licensed drivers and 32 sanctioned races a year. PCA Club Racing provides classes for all Porsche sports cars, and the members can enjoy safe, clean, and organized racing. For more information, you can visit them at pcaclubracing.org. As we get back to the racing here, it's a little bit tighter for this lead now. Jason Lisner has not left the rear bumper of Billy Smith in that number 70 machine. The neon yellow standard Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car scheme has been pacing this way from the drop of the green, but he hasn't escaped and he hasn't gotten that far away.
No, that lead that was hanging around the 7 to 8 tenths of a second mark, now closer to that 5 to 6 tenths of a second mark, as Lisner's done a fantastic job absolutely mirroring every lap that Billy Smith has been putting down, just latched onto him like there's an invisible rope between those two cars. And Billy Smith is just pulling Jason Lisner around Sebring, but I give a lot of credit again to the driver of the 92, Jason Lisner. A fantastic ride here, not intimidated, not worried about what Billy Smith has done in practice, what he put up on the timesheets during those sessions. It's in the race, so that's what matters, and the pace out of the 92 is fantastic right now.
Really, really fantastic pace from both of these drivers up at the front of this field. And, you know, I think it's a bit of a new audience, so they might not necessarily be familiar with him, but Mr. Schildhouse, is it time to pull out a very favorite feathered friend that we have on our broadcast?
I couldn't imagine coming on air and not doing it, so Cisco, if you would be so kind, please, for Sebring's sake, cue the Chuck.
And I suppose it's probably a good idea to explain this. We have our own trivia duck that comes out and introduces the trivia question that we do on all Podium eSports broadcasts. So if you want to have a little bit of fun here, you can punch in your answer in the chat, and potentially, if you are the first person to get the correct answer, get one of the very, very coveted PCA car badges, which I know go like hotcakes around the PCA community. So you'll definitely want to be quick on the keys to make sure that you get in your answer first. But a few rules before we play. First is that employees and contractors of Podium eSports LLC are ineligible to participate. The second is that you get one opportunity to answer in chat per broadcast. Any responses you punch in chat after your first response will be deleted and considered ineligible. So make sure that you think before you speak and put in your answer. Though tonight's question, in fairness, is relatively simple, we thought we'd start you all off easy. And all we need is the year that the Porsche Club of America was founded. If you can tell us that year and punch that in chat, you will be coming home with a Porsche Club of America car badge to throw on your Porsche Macan or Cayman or 911 or whatever. Panamera if you're a sedan fan. So we'll keep an eye out on chat to see who comes up with the first answer here, and hopefully we'll get somebody to tell us just how old the Porsche Club of America is.
Look at this, a lapped car between the leaders right here. That's Juha Matamaki getting in the way. Look out, here comes second place. Jason Lisner trying to find his way around and successfully does, but look at how much time he lost to Billy Smith. So all the work that he put in to close that gap up to about a half of a second now basically doubles in one corner as they get by the slower car. A little bit tricky for both of those drivers. Lisner had the harder time getting through and now finds himself a little over a second behind Billy Smith as they go down the Ullman Straight.
And I do believe we have a winner in this. It is, looks like Jeff S. is the victor. It is 1955. That was the founding year for the Porsche Club of America. So congratulations to Jeff S. And yeah, we see everybody coming with the answer just a little bit late. But Jeff S. comes home with the victory in chat. And we'll be walking away with a PCA car badge. So something to definitely show off at the next PCA event that he goes to. A big thank you to everyone for participating in tonight's trivia game. And if you're interested in playing along, you can come over to twitch.tv/Podium eSports in our races during the week and play along with us there, or come right back here on the iRacing eSports Network next week when the Porsche Club of America gets to racing again, and we will go to Circuit of the Americas if you are interested in knowing what the next stop is. And that gives me the chance to remind our audience that the Porsche Club of America hosts over 3,500 events annually across the continent. Between the 10 national events and the thousands of regional events that take place each year, there's a PCA event for every Porsche enthusiast. PCA hosts autocross events, concours d'elegance, driver's education classes, driving tours, social events, and tech sessions. And for more information on the PCA events near you, you can visit pca.org/events. We take a look here at this lead that is just hovering in a very, very, very tight window. It's been under a second for the last few laps. And as I look at the lap times here, they haven't really fallen off all that much. The last 5 laps, the window, I suppose, of lap times has been between a 2:06.5 and a 2:07.0 for Billy Smith. And for Jason Lisner, it's been a 2:06.4 and a 2:07.3. So not really much in it between these two, but these two are very clearly the class of the field.
And that lead that swelled a little bit as Lisner had a little bit of difficulty getting by the slower car of Matt Maki. He's eaten into that lead a little bit through the middle portions of the circuit. Now as they go down Ullman, once again, that lead grows back up to about a second. So Lisner trying to find that pace that he had earlier in this run to reel in Billy Smith. And for Smith, he can breathe a little bit easier with a little less pressure on the back bumper one more time through Sunset Bend. Under 9 minutes now, James, to the conclusion of this race. Jason Lisner is going to have to dig deep to find more time on the track to get that 70 back out in front of his bumper close so he can try and make a move for the lead.
We'll see if he can make a move for the lead, and we'll slide a little bit further back in the field. Christopher Pines is racing there with Matthew Kikas. Lone Star and Carolina regions going at it here. This is for the 6th spot on track as they come through Sunset Bend one more time. And we're running out of time in this race as well. Coming within the last 10 minutes as they work the lap traffic there. That's James Sue in the 7 machine. That, oh, it was really, really close there for Pines coming into that first turn. And I wonder if Kikas will take advantage. It looks like the lap car of Sue will slide out of the way and Kikas will get underneath him. And in fairness, if you're going to catch a lap car here at Sebring, I think that or Sunset Bend might be one of the 2 places where you want to do it because there's the runoff route there for the lap cars to slide very easily out of the way so you can continue your progress down the track.
I would agree with that. Joshua Vieira, the next lap car in front of Christopher Pais to get past as they come down into the hairpin section. Not sure he's close enough to make a lunge to the inside to try and get past him here, so he's going to have to be patient and try and get him either through the S's or down through Collier or even in Tower Corner, whichever one they can get to quickly and get around him. Looks like Vieira is going to move over and give him the lane, so a nice piece of courtesy extended by Joshua Vieira to let all these faster cars through. Kikas is through as well.
So Kikas is through, but I think he lost a little bit of time through the Fangio section coming up here to turn 10, which is one of the harder corners here. You definitely have to get on the brakes. It's not the trickiest. I would argue that the one they come up to right now, Tower, is harder, just with the way you have to line the car up to get into the braking zone. But a very tricky complex there to get through. And then you've got the very speedy run through Bishop where you're nearly flat out in 5th gear all the way through, but you have to take off just a little bit to get your car lined straight up for the braking zone into turn 15 if they come through now.
This back half of the circuit is quite challenging, and again, you have the different surface types as well, which can really upset the way that car handles. But nonetheless, they get through Le Mans onto the Ullman straight. This little group for Kikas, if he's going to catch back up to Christopher Pais, again, running out of time, under 7 minutes now.
Pais has definitely opened up a gap here, especially through that section from Bishop on all the way through to Le Mans. And we'll see if Kikas can gain a little bit. I think he's a little bit better, is Kikas, in Sunset Bend than Pais is. But Pais, I think, might have been able to watch the mirror the last few laps to get a better feel for how to get around there. So he's starting to really gap it. And I think the best move might actually be to slide a little bit further back because while Pais has opened up the gap on Kikas, Richard Menkler and William Yu are going at it. And those two are within maybe a car length or 2 tops. And it's not the first time we've seen them battle this evening.
No, these two have seemingly been in each other's hip pocket much of the race. And one more time down into turn 1. Looking at Menkler, not quite as tidy through there, allows you to pull up just a little bit in that corner as they set up for the run down to turn 3. Yu's got to have some patience here as he peeks a little bit to the inside, letting Menkler know, hey, I'm here. I'm looking to get past. You make a mistake, I'm going to be there to pounce. Another good opportunity coming up next if you get a good run out of turn 5 and 6 for the run down to the hairpin. Might be able to make a move. We'll see what he does here. Not quite close enough unless he can get a little bit of draft. I'm not sure he's going to be able to make the move this time by.
I was thinking that you might have had a chance if he didn't get off in the dirt on the exit of turn 5. I had a thought he might try and go for it in the hairpin, but that run off the dirt and another one there as he comes out of the hairpin into the Fangio section of this track might keep him from getting a chance at Minkler into turn 10, so he'll have to regroup. And the next real big spot, I guess, would be Tower, and then probably turn 15 right after Bishop. But there goes Minkler locking up the brakes, so we may have a run in Tower for you if he can keep on the rear bumper of the 76.
Minkler's pushing really hard right now. Not the first time. Again, locks up the right front tire. That's the third time this lap that he's locked up. That tells me he's trying to get into these corners even harder than the car will let him to try and keep William Yu behind him. He's got another car in front of this pairing. That's going to be James Su in the number 7. He's in the 31st position. See how he holds these guys up. Look at that. Minkler offline just a little bit. Here comes Yu down to the inside. Off Lamont. They're going to make it work, but look at the run. Minkler gets into the back bumper.
What a big block from Yu. Yu was getting underneath the lap traffic, and Minkler actually got the really, really good run off of Lamont to come down the Ullman Straight, and Yu went up to block him and stop him, and it kept Minkler from being able to get past the 07 machine as the 07 gets hard on the brakes there in a Sunset Bend. Minkler tries to take that wide line around, but there's just not enough banking to hold on to it, so Yu should be able to come away with the spot and move back into the top 10.
Oh, what a nice exchange as they got by Su. Yu and Minkler were really brawling there. Minkler put the bumper to Yu down the Ullman Straight, but couldn't keep up with him into the Sunset Bend. Now through turn 1, Yu extends that lead just a little bit as the clock clicks down under 4 minutes to go. And here comes another player into the game. That's Michael Levesque in the number 77. So 3 cars battling here for the top 10 spot.
Really, really fun battle between Yu and Minkler and Levesque. One of the best battles on track at the moment as we see Levesque coming from the Rennsport region. First time we've called their name tonight in this PCA SRS. That takes care of most of the province of Quebec as you see a really big run from Levesque into the hairpin in turn 7. But the Rennsport region will be most of the province of Quebec, but it extends a little bit into Ontario to get Ottawa as well. So it's Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City are sort of your flagship cities for the Rennsport region as he makes a big dive down into turn 10 and nearly gets underneath Minkler there for the position.
A big dive into that corner, and again, we saw Minkler lock up the right front. He knew what was coming. He wanted to get deep into that corner to defend, but Minkler cannot get in to any of these corners without locking up the right front. So just way too much brake pressure being applied for the driver of the 76 as he tries to hold on for that 11th position and defend from Michael Levesque's attack. All that's doing is allowing William Yu to pull away. I think Minkler is in a very precarious position as he tries to defend really hard. I don't think he can keep it up for lap after lap. We're running out of laps to do it. That right front's got to be screaming for mercy at this point.
The right front has to be screaming for mercy at this point. We'll keep an eye on that. Also watching a battle for 7th and 8th. Christopher Pies and Matthew Keek is back at it once again. So those two sort of in combo patterns at the moment. About the same gap between those two sets of drivers. You see a big dive from Levesque into Sunset Bend, and he locks it up. So got himself a little bit wide early in the corner, but he may be able to take advantage of that and get off the corner nicely. So we'll see how that plays out here over the next final few minutes of this race. But before we get back to the action, we'll remind you that over on our regular home, the Podium eSports Network at twitch.tv/Podium eSports, if oval racing is more your thing, we've got some events coming up this week for you on a regularly scheduled broadcast. Our truck series will go to Bristol Motor Speedway Sunday night, March 3rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have short track racing with the Cars Esport Tour. The officially sanctioned esport racing series of the Cars Esport Tour will go to Concord Speedway, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. A short track triangle, which is a bit of an odd combination, but we'll be there at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday night, March the 6th. And then the Elite Series for our Class A Cup cars that you normally see on Sundays racing the ovals. They'll head to Bristol 2 on March 7th. We'll have an 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start for that broadcast before we come back to the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series next Friday, March 8th, in the Circuit of the Americas. So, PCA right here on the iRacing Esports Network, but all the other Podium Esports races broadcast on the Podium Esports Network, which you can find at twitch.tv/Podium Esports.
Look at this fight for the lead, James. Here comes Jason Lisner through Sunset Bend. This is as close as he's been to the back bumper of Billy Smith since the drop of the green flag. this should be the white flag as there's only 40 seconds left. So this should be the final trip around Sebring. Look at the defensive line. Billy Smith's going to take Lisner a huge run into one. Nothing cooking there, but he is right on the back bumper.
Coming in here, no more than 2 laps to go tops here at Sebring, and these two have been glued together for the majority of this race, and they just have not been able to separate one from another. And it is first settlers versus Maverick here, and now Lisner's really beginning to put the pressure on Smith. I don't know if he's been as close as he has is right now, and Lisner had a chance to get after Smith in the hairpin, but again, same issue that William, you had a few laps ago. If you overdrive the exit of turn 5, you're in trouble.
Yep, and that definitely kills the run down into the hairpin. Nothing cooking there. He just has to sit on the back bumper now as they work through Fangio, get up to turn 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe down in Tower. He might have a sniff of that lead to try and make a move. Only a few corners left, real passing opportunities, unless Billy Smith makes a mistake. Nothing cooking here.
Really, really tight stuff there as they come through turn 10. Next run will be up to the Tower corner. You're on full throttle here, and then you've got to pitch the car very quickly and very correctly, and we'll see if we get a good run through here as we come down to the closing stages of this race.
Just out into the dirt one more time for Jason Lisner, losing all the opportunities that he needs to try and make a move for the lead. Running out of corners here now sets up for Le Mans. They're going to have one last run down the Ullman straight. What kind of move will we see out of Jason Lisner? Can he get off this corner well with a good run? Looks to be pretty even, but I think Billy Smith's got the right advantage for the time being.
Billy Smith should be in pretty good shape here unless he completely locks it up at Sunset Bend. Billy Smith, who has led this race from the drop of the green flag, who's been the fastest man in Florida all week long. You see Lisner really get on it, try and get right around him, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think, as they come off the corner. Here comes Billy Smith down to the start-finish line, and Billy Smith with a really, really strong run this evening to get it done and win the inaugural race of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series.
Great rally there for Jason Lisner. Remember, he fell back around a second after they had difficulty getting past the slow car. So to be that close at the checkered flag, good job for him. We look at the battle here for 7th and 8th. Pais and Kikas through Sunset Bend. Pais is going to hold on to that 7th position. Come across, he should be feeling pretty good about that. Kikas is going to settle for 8th. Now another battle on track. Rosicas and Mazzariello, they go down Ullman Straight.
So they're down Ullman Straight up to the next group here on the lead lap to finish up their race. Mazzariello in the 14th spot, Rosicas in the 15th spot. And those two look like there's a pretty good gap here, so it's just a matter of Mazzariello making sure that he doesn't lock up the brakes. And he'll do that. Well, they both locked it up a little bit, but not as much of an issue for Mazzariello. So Mazzariello is the man who's going to come out of here behind Rosicas, and Rosicas is going to come away with the 14th spot, 15th to Mazzariello. Next up in line will be Jeffrey Smith in the 16 machine.
Just a couple of drivers left to finish here, 16th through about 21st, I believe. That is all the lead lap drivers, and no real battles amongst any of those cars. They're all pretty well spread out. As Smith comes across the line, David Stewart will follow suit. We're still waiting on Eric McHugh, Jason Morski, Pucky Lukes, and Kenny Brown. Those will be your final finishers here.
Final four here. Stewart's across the line. McHugh's across the line. Waiting on Morski, who will come across the line right now. And then Lux is in Sunset Bend coming out of there now. And Kenny Brown not too far behind him. So those two pretty close together. But Lux and Brown will come across the line and be the last two cars to finish on the lead lap here. And I think that should complete everyone in, well, just about everybody in the running order here at Sebring.
I'm absolutely amazed at that finish that we saw between Billy Smith and Jason Lisner. I thought it was all but a done deal. I thought Billy Smith was going to pull away and win this by a much larger margin, but Jason Lisner really dug deep in the closing laps and made one really spirited run through Sunset Bend. I thought he had a chance to get to the back bumper and maybe tap Billy Smith to really rattle the cage, but just couldn't quite get there. But a very exciting finish here at Sebring, James. If this is a precursor to what we're going to see the rest of the season, my goodness, what a treat this series is really going to be.
going to be a lot of fun. So we'll take a moment to take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll run through the full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished, and we'll talk to Billy Smith and our podium finishers here in this inaugural race for the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Sebring International Raceway. You're watching coverage of the PCA SRS live here on the iRacing eSports Network.
For all of you who believe that sim racing can be bigger,
We're down to it. What should be one last restart.
for all of you who believe sim racing can be better,
5 laps to go when they cross the stripe.
your moment
Here they come, back to the tri-oval to the start finish line.
is now.
He gets bumped though. He gets shoved out of the way. Here he comes. They make contact. Up at the line. I can't tell who's going to get it.
Introducing Podium Esports, your new home for the best competition in sim racing.
The outside, they go side to side. They come down to the start finish line.
Featuring the Podium Esports Elite Series, the Podium Esports Truck Series, and much, much more.
We get the green flag. 2 laps to go here in Daytona.
All broadcast live on the Podium Esports Network.
What a run.
More racing, bigger purses, and the best competition. Welcome to Podium Esports, launching January 2nd.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back to coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series here on the iRacing eSports Network. And we are done with the inaugural race at Sebring, and the first man ever to take a flag at any Porsche Club of America Sim Racing competition on the iRacing eSports Network is Billy Smith out of the Maverick region, who claims the victory here at Sebring International Raceway. At this point, we'll take you through your full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished. And we start most naturally with the winner, Billy Smith, who led from the drop of the green and was the fastest man in practice, fastest man in qualifying. So a clean sweep here for the driver of the number 70 machine. Jason Lisner came home in the second spot. Third was the 45 of Michael Polasic, and you'll hear from all three of those drivers in just a moment when we interview the podium finishers. James Patak finished in the fourth spot. Fifth was the 12 of James Hoot. Leif Peterson came home in the sixth position. Seventh was the 18 of Christopher Pies. Matthew Kikas was the eighth man in the finishing order. Alberto Fonseca was ninth, and William Yu rounded out the top 10 at Sebring.
Richard Winkler comes home in the 11th position. Michael Levesque in 12th. John Waltman 13th. Liam Rudzitsis in 14th. Jeremy Mazzariello 15th. Jeffrey Smith in 16th. David Stewart, the hard charger of the day, up 13 spots to 17th from his 30th starting place. Eric McHugh comes home in 18th. Jason Morski 19th. And Pucky Lukes rounds out the top 20.
21st was Kenny Brown. He was the last driver on the lead lap. 22nd was Richard Franco. Juha Matamaki was 23rd. 24th was Eric Peterson. Terrence Waugh finished in the 25th spot. 26th was Stephen Cugliari. Kyle Kamer, the 888 machine, was 27th. 28th was the 19 of Charlie Yao. Robert Wilson finished in the 29th spot. 30th was Sahib Khalsa. And then James Sue and Joshua Vieira were the last two drivers in this 32-car field this evening at Sebring. And that is your full field rundown. And from there, we will slide to victory lane and find the man who finished on top of the pylon when it was all said and done. And that was the driver from the Maverick region of the number 7911, Billy Smith. Billy, you are the winner of the first ever Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series event. What does that mean to you?
Well, honestly, it's pretty cool. I think the guys that put this on, I think they did an outstanding job, and I'm happy to be here. And the competition is pretty fierce there with Jason. He's quite the competitor, so I'm pretty happy to come out on top.
I wanted to ask you about that because we talked about it a little bit on broadcasts, and there's always the potential, especially when you have two drivers that are running so close together in lap times that are so quick that it almost ends up becoming more of a mental game than anything else. And you have to make sure that you nail your line while at the same time making sure that you keep an eye on the rearview mirror, but you don't pay attention to it so much that it allows you to mess up your own line. So how did you find a balance between the two, especially in the second half of that race where it looks like Lisner picked up a little bit of pace?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's just one of those things where you have to be conscious of it. And at the same, while he's behind me, watching me, trying to figure out what my weak spots are, I can kind of do the same just from looking at my mirror. And you're exactly right. It's completely a mental game. And he was definitely had a little bit more speed on entry in turn one there. And he was trying to see if he could put a little pressure on me. And I just have to say, he's a really clean driver. And so it was a very hard battle. And I had to do what I could to hold it off there at the end because the last two laps, he certainly turned it on.
And I know you put in a lot of practice here for Sebring. You were in the practice session last night. I think at some point I'm going to have to learn how to actually break these things. Maybe by the end of the season, I'll get a chance to figure it out. But you put in a lot of time here, and I figure that the process will probably be the same for next week when we head to Circuit of the Americas, no?
Yeah, it's a pretty technical track, technical for different reasons in Sebring, but I'll definitely be putting in the time.
Before we let you go, I figured you've got a few friends in your Maverick region that you want to send a shout out to, but who do you need to thank on the broadcast for making your victory here in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series inaugural race possible?
I think Leif Peterson, he's also competing here, and he actually was the reason I bought a Porsche, and he's the reason I'm in the Porsche Club of America, so I have to definitely thank him.
Well, figures one Maverick man sends a shout out to another Maverick man, and you all were very well represented, I would say, out here. So congratulations to you and everybody in your region, Billy, on the victory, and we'll see you next week. I guess we're not going too far away from Maverick Brownies here when we head to Dakota.
Correct. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
So there is Billy Smith, your race winner, and from that, we begin to make our way a little bit further down the podium, and we will slide to the man who finished second out of the first Settlers region of the PCA, right on the coast of Virginia. It's Jason Lisner, who is standing next to our David Schildhouse.
Representing Richmond, Williamsburg, and Virginia Beach, here with second place finisher Jason Lisner. Jason, a great run for you. Really close finish. Did you think you had a shot at Billy Smith, and how did the traffic towards the end of the race play into it?
Yeah, that traffic was something else. I think I should have probably just started to attack a little harder earlier. But yeah, that was epic.
So 45 minutes around Sebring, what kind of mentality did you bring into this race here tonight? And now that's all said and done, what do you take from it?
Yeah, so I went into it kind of just, try kind of be easy, just waiting for a mistake. And then I realized that Billy wasn't going to make any mistakes. So that's when I had to step it up.
And on that last lap, when you had that close of a gap between you and he down the Ullman straight going into Sunset Bend one last time, saw you get real close. If you could get to that back bumper, where are you going to put it to him?
Possibly.
Never tell your secrets on air. That's what I've always learned. But a job well done for you. And now we look forward to Circuit of the Americas. What are your thoughts heading out there?
Yeah, that's a really neat track. I look forward to running it.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you out there next Friday, and I'll give you the opportunity here to say hello to friends, family, sponsors, and everyone else who helps you get to the track here tonight.
Yeah. Hey, FSR region, PCA, and all my autocross and racing friends. Thanks for watching.
There you have it. Second place finisher, Jason Lisner. Great job. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
And so Jason Lisner comes home P2, and we will slide here. And in just a minute, we'll get the buttons cleared and talk to the P3 finisher, Michael Polaski, who joins us now up here in the broadcast booth. And Michael, we got word earlier on that you might be one of the youngest competitors in the entirety of the PCA SRS. So I wondered, do you feel like it was an advantage for you that, in real life racing, the people that you're racing against, especially with the community that the PCA fosters. So you're aware of who's racing, how old they are, what kind of driver they are, and so on and so forth. But this is an entirely different group, and you sort of get to run behind the veil of a computer screen. And do you feel like that sort of helped you racing around the other drivers here at Sebring?
In fact, I really just only treat them as opponents. I don't really take into account age, experience, and who they really are. As the series goes on, I'll eventually be able to find out each individual driver's driving style and play to their characteristics. But as to right now, I just treat them as opponents, and my goal is just to beat them whatever way I can.
And you beat a very significant chunk of the field this evening. Only 2 men ahead of you in this, and a quality podium run for you. Talk a little bit about your involvement with PCA and with iRacing. It's a group that you don't really see too many crossover points yet. This is really the first one that the PCA and iRacing have had on this sort of scale. So how'd you get involved with the PCA, and how'd you get involved with iRacing?
Well, my dad's actually a PCA member. We go on road rallies together in the New Jersey region. And on iRacing, I've been doing this for maybe like 2.5 years now. And I actually have a team, Lone Wolf Motorsports. We do a bunch of endurance races in the Mercedes AMG GT3 and the Porsche 919 LMP1 car. We actually won the 2019 iRacing Daytona 24 Hours in GT3 and Split 3. But this is a completely new experience for me. It's a wildly different car to the GT3 and the LMP1 cars. You got to drive it very differently, but it's a very, very rewarding car when you get it right.
And as we progress through the PCA SRS and you look at the list of tracks that we go to, I know Coda's there, Watkins Glen, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, some really legendary tracks here in North America on the schedule. What are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, Daytona, obviously. It's the one track that I've always been most honed in on. I've driven so many laps there in the Mercedes, so it's going to be interesting to see how I'm going to tackle it with the Porsche.
But before we get to Daytona, we've got to make our way through the schedule, and the next stop is Circuit of the Americas. So very quickly, what are your thoughts on next Friday night's race in Texas?
It's a really, really challenging track. I mean, the track has pretty much everything from the very, very scary turn one braking zone because it's uphill and you can really lock the wheels pretty easily to the consecutive hairpins in the second half. The track's very difficult to master, and I'd imagine these cars, it's going to be a real test of driver skill.
Well, we'll let you get ready to get practicing on that and give you the chance to start warming up for next week. But before we let you go, Michael, let everybody who needs the big thanks to the New Jersey region and all around and know that they get some love from you here on this broadcast. Who do you need to thank for making it possible?
Well, I'd obviously like to thank my dad for getting into the series, him being a PCA member and all. I'd also like to thank my team, Lone Wolf Motorsports, and everybody in the NJPCA region.
Well, Michael, congratulations to you and to everybody in the NGA region of the PCA, and congrats on the podium finish. We'll see you 1 week from tonight at COTA.
All right. Thank you very much.
So there is the final man on the podium, Michael Polaski, who gets it done from New Jersey and comes home P3. And also we'll let you know that from Group B, the racing over there, we had a top 5 of Joseph Stiefel, who got the victory, Igor Soiker, who finished second. Matthew Mitchell was P3, Michael Evans P4, and Bruce Robinson P5. So congratulations to all 5 of those drivers on their top runs in Group B's race. So I think we have covered just about everything that we need to in this broadcast, save for one very important piece of it. And we turn now to Mr. David Schildhouse for his regularly scheduled Schildhouse of Final Thoughts.
Thanks, James. This was a historic evening here at the Sebring International Raceway, the kickoff of a brand new racing series, marrying a historic auto manufacturer in Porsche and the Porsche Club of America with iRacing to bring racers, Porsche Club owners, and members together on one unified platform to race. That's why we're all here, and what a show it was in the end. Billy Smith, the man that writes his name into the history books, is the first ever winner in the PCA SMS. Jason Lisner gave him a great fight to the line, but too much pace in that number 70. Now Billy Smith has established himself as a firm championship contender.
I have a feeling we're going to see Billy Smith be very successful at a lot of tracks on this schedule. And I have a feeling that COTA may be one of his more successful ones. It's the closest track on our calendar to the Maverick region that he calls home. So I bet that there's some track time lined up in there. There's some real world experience that'll probably be blended in, and there'll be a lot of speed from him and from all the other drivers in the PCA SRS as well. Friendly reminder before we take off here that if you want to keep up with more of the action from Podium Esports, you can flip over to twitch.tv/Podium Esports and head on over to the Podium Esports Network for this week's racing there. That's where you usually find us here, David, myself, Cisco, and company. We have our truck series that will race at Bristol on Sunday night, March 3rd, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the start for that broadcast. The officially sanctioned esports competition of the Cars Tour, the Cars Esports Tour, will take their late models to Concord Speedway for 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time start next Wednesday, March the 6th. And then March 7th, it will be the Cup cars, the Class A cars. They'll head to Bristol Motor Speedway. That'll be an 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start for that broadcast. And those will be on twitch.tv/Podium Esports, our usual home, the Podium Esports Network, before we return here to the iRacing Esports Network and YouTube next Friday night, March 8th. 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're right back at it, and we head to Circuit of the Americas. Certainly not the oldest track in the United States, but what a creation they have put together just outside of Austin, Texas. We are very, very excited to go there and see these Porsches turn loose once again. A big thank you to all of the PCA members and all the sim racing fans who watched tonight's broadcast, and thanks for making this inaugural race of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series such a success. And as always, our thank you to everyone at the Porsche Club of America who helped out with this, to Executive Director Vu Nguyen, to Jim Hemming, the Marketing Director of the PCA, and Doug Atkinson, the Communications Director for the Lone Star region of the PCA, who helped put this together on their end. A big thank you to them and to everyone at the PCA from all of us at Podium Esports, and a big thank you to our regular crew at Podium Esports as well, TJ Lyon, Gary Sexton, and Kyle Barnes. For our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, for my partner in the booth, Mr. David Schildhouse, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching tonight's inaugural broadcast of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, and we will see you at 9:15 next Friday night from Circuit of the Americas. Until then, good night.